This chapter deals with measuring the effectiveness of the portfolios. See, now that we are getting into the portfolio creation and management kind of a process, how do I measure? Let's say someone, two portfolio managers A and B have created some kind of portfolios. One, let's say he has created purely on equity securities. Someone else has created purely on bonds, right? Now, by default, if I just look at the return which each portfolio has created, there is a good chance that the equity security can create a much higher return compared to a bond portfolio, because you must have taken a higher risk, right? Higher risk. So there is a possibility of a higher return as a part of the equity portfolio compared to a bond portfolio. Now, what we are saying is, if at all this is the kind of a situation, how do I measure the effectiveness of two portfolios created by two different managers? So we are using again our CAPM equation itself in this regard, because in the CAPM equation we had this formula which we had used earlier. Slope of that CAPM line. Slope of that CAPM line, we said that it is Ri minus Rf by beta, which we also called earlier itself as a trainer ratio. What is this saying? If you see here, Ri minus Rf, which is nothing but the excess return which your portfolio or a security has generated. Right? When I say I, you take it as a security or even a portfolio. Whatever is the excess return above the risk-free rate of return which your portfolio has generated, divided by beta of the portfolio, which is the risk. So for each 1 unit of systematic risk of the portfolio, what is the excess return that has been generated? So I will not look at it purely from the return perspective as a measurement of my performance of my portfolio manager. I'll not look at it purely from the perspective of return, but I will look at from the perspective of risk adjusted return. That is where I am looking at systematic risk and what is the excess return per unit of systematic risk. And that is what we are calling as one of the measures, the trainer ratio. Similarly, we have also looked at the Sharpe ratio, which is again the same, Ri minus Rf by sigma, which is the total risk. So if I take only systematic risk in the denominator, I call it as trainer ratio. But if I take the total risk, both systematic plus unsystematic risk in the denominator, we have called it as a Sharpe ratio. So even this is a very powerful measure for evaluating the performance of the managers. And there is one more measure called Jensen alpha. See, as per our SML, when I have drawn the diagram, I said if the risk of the security is this much, beta, if the beta of the security is this much, it should give me this much of a return. But it has given me this much. Right? This is the actual return which the security or the portfolio has given. Whereas this is what is expected. This is expected as per the CAPM equation or as per the SML graph. So this excess, or probably if my risk is this much, this should be the return. But I have got only this much, the security or a portfolio which Mr. X has created has given this much of return. So this difference between the actual return minus that expected by CAPM, that difference is what we call as Jensen alpha. So you see here, the actual return which the portfolio has given minus, this is a CAPM, Rf plus beta times RM minus Rf. So which is this point. So this is the expected, whereas this is the actual. The difference between the two is what we are calling as the Jensen alpha. So if the alpha is positive, we are going to long on those securities in our portfolio. We'll have those securities as a buying position. We have also said that we will buy those kind of securities because we'll treat them as undervalued. So the recommendation will always come out as a buy kind of a recommendation. But whenever we are talking of the alpha being negative, actual return minus the expected return, if alpha is coming out as negative, we are talking about selling. The analyst recommendation will come out as sell, which means we are shorting more and more on those securities to maximize the returns for them. So these are the three kind of measures that are typically used for measuring the performance of the portfolio managers. But of course, each of them, though they are looking at from different dimensions, one is looking at from total risk perspective, which is Sharpe ratio. The other is looking out from the perspective of only the systematic risk, and the other is looking at actual return versus the expected return. So these are the three various dimensions from where the performance of the portfolio